Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second weekend here in Sigulda. This is the FIL Studio show. My name is Kate Hansen, and we're so excited to be here because we get to talk about so many interesting things that's not happening directly with sliding on the luge track. So let's get into it for a second. So last weekend was freezing. The ice was one of the fastest that they've ever had. They set a ton of track records, and this weekend is definitely warmer. I can hear some rain, some water coming off of this beautiful castle. So it changes the track conditions a little bit, but last weekend it was so cold that your eyelashes were about to freeze. So conditions are changing, but I want to talk about Sigulda really quick. So we are an hour just outside of Riga, and this is kind of the place to be for any type of nature or excitement or any type of adventure that you want to be part of. So they have a national park that starts out of Sigulda, the Gauia National Park. There's so many running trails, hiking trails, and it's just beautiful. There's so much history that went on here as well, including this right here. The Livonian Order Castle was built in 1207. I didn't realize there was so much history here in Sigulda. I also didn't realize that people were building walls this high in 1207. I don't understand how that's really possible. So it's been really interesting to kind of dive into the history of Sigulda and why the World Cup circuit comes here every year, because it's not necessarily a place that people think from other countries like, oh, I want to go specifically to Sigulda. So the reason people come here is because of the luge track that we're going to talk all about this weekend. Now, the breakdown of the history of the luge track, I think, is really fascinating. I had no idea until I read up on it. So at the time, it was 1982. The Soviet Union was here, and they decided that they wanted to build a sliding track. They were thinking of putting it in St. Petersburg, but because most of the team already was Latvian, they said, okay, we're going to put it in Sigulda. And so obviously in the 90s, when Latvia broke off, it's now become the home base of sliding sports for Team Latvia. It's super interesting. So when they wanted to build it, it started in 1982. And why it was so special was because they were trying to build into a valley. There's not a lot of mountains here in Latvia. So when they started building into the valley, they saw that the rock and the geography of it was actually really unstable. So they had to build men's tower to be so high so they could achieve 100 meters from the top to the bottom. So we have some really cool photos we want to show you. Some really awesome, just film, black and white, super cool to see the people putting together the construction of all this, which finally ended in 1986. And it talks about how these people had so much pride in what they were building because no one had built something like this before. And so since then, thankfully to all these people, this is now the home base of all the history of sliding sports within Latvia. And I was doing the research on this. Of all the Olympic Games since they've become a country, they've won 10 Olympic winter medals, and they've all come out of sliding sports. So anyways, really cool to kind of learn about that and be a part of it. But we're going to jump into some racing this weekend. Before we, give you the specs on what's happening, we're going to catch you up in case you missed last weekend, which you shouldn't because you should be following us all the time. But here are your highlights from last weekend in case you did miss it.
Record-breaking ice here in Sigulda this weekend. Max Langenhahn of Germany, in his first race on the World Cup Tour, found himself straight to the podium. Beautiful runs locked in that finish for the Nations Cup winner who qualified for this race. Dominic Fischnaller, the overall World Cup leader, was in second place, dropped behind Max Langenhahn, but showed his consistency, which is what has him on top of the leaderboard for the overall. He is having a dominant season and great racing here in Latvia. But the big story this weekend was the hometown heroes, one after another. For men's singles, it was Kristers Apriots set the track record on the first run and bent on doing it again. Beautiful start, beautiful run. He showed his comfort and consistency in front of massive crowds here on his home track. Big finish for the Latvian that popped him up in the overall standings to fourth place. In men's doubles, we saw the Italian duo of Emanuel Rieder and Simone Keinswaldner sitting in bronze position. Again, it was consistency that brought them to the podium. They had to qualify through Nations Cup, but showed where they belong with a third place finish. The great Tobias Wendel and Tobias Arlt of Germany secured their silver medal this weekend, breaking a track record, but it did not last long. Beautiful runs here were enough to finish second, but were not enough to keep that track record on Latvian home ice because it was the young Martinsbots and Roberts Plume of Latvia who showed incredible composure with the fastest runs of the weekend and took home a big win on home ice, the second Latvian team to set a track record and take home that win in front of massive crowds here in Sigulda. Beautiful form, stretching out for the finish, and an incredible run and an incredible showing from this young Latvian pair. In women's singles, it was Julia Talbot who had her work cut out for her. She came back from a 5th place on the first run to take 3rd place after setting the pace on the second run. Big comeback, but it was Latvia's Elina Vitola that had the track record in the time to beat. Again, showing massive composure on home ice. The young athlete qualified through Nations Cup and finished in 2nd place, but did not hold on to that track record because it was Germany's Diana Eitberger who threw down. A beautiful run for the talented German athlete and new mom who plans on turning to doubles next year. But in the meantime, she set the track record and took home the win here in Sigulda, the only non-Latvian to win this weekend. In women's doubles, it was the German team of Jessica Degenhardt and Cheyenne Rosenthal to finish bronze. Wicked temperatures and fast ice proved troublesome for most of the doubles teams here, but they showed great consistency and locked in that medal. Team USA, Siobhan Forgan and Sophia Kirby took home a silver medal, their best finish of the season here in Sigulda on a very difficult track in especially difficult conditions. They were very pleased with this finish. But it was again Latvia. Anda Upita and Sania Ozalina who took home the win and the track record for the 3rd of 4 track record and hometown wins of Latvia. Fastest speeds and the fastest down times proved enough for them to finish on top of the podium. In the team race, it was Team USA that found themselves with a bronze medal. Emily Sweeney kicked things off with her comeback run from a tough women's singles race. Tucker West held the lead, and then it was the doubles team of Sean Hollander and Zach Gregorio that held their spot and earned them their first team podium of the season. No stranger to the team podium. It was Elina Vitola, who had just set the track record and finished 2nd in her own race, that set the pace for Krister Zabriods, her teammate, also the new track record holder and winner of his race. And then for the doubles, Roberts Plume and Martinsbots finished through and down to lock in the track record and the win. But the last team to go, Germany, chasing down the win. Diana Eitberger set the pace for Team Germany as Felix Locke awaited the gates to open, but it wasn't enough for Tobias Wendell and Tobias Arlt. Needed to find more time at the bottom of the track, and they did not. And again, the win and the 4th track record and 4th win for Latvia this weekend.